We'll start things out with AEW Grand Slam from Arthur Ashe Stadium. A little less fanfare, a little less excitement than their previous trip there. But nonetheless, I still think a pretty entertaining show. And, you know, a lot of people like to crap on AEW, and I really don't understand why. You see Grand Slam. What were your takeaways from Grand Slam? Start with you, Brandon.
I thought it was a good show. I did see on social media that I mean, it kind of leads into the crapping on AEW, but from the lack of attendance at the venue, because it wasn't a sold out arena, because reports are there was tickets still on sale, a good amount of tickets on sale before the show even was starting. With that being said, the audience that was there, you wouldn't have known it wasn't a sold out venue because it was a very engaging audience. I thought I really enjoyed the Acclaimed finally getting the championship. That was awesome. Let me tell you this. The Acclaimed is one of the biggest pops in all professional wrestling right now. The whole scissor me daddy thing or daddy ass, like that's fantastic. Like I look forward to when I look at the cards every week, and I like to see what they're, you know, obviously aside from a surprise, which we'll get to in a minute, but you can see who's going to be on the show. I look for the Acclaim because not only is their entrance great, they're great in the ring. I think they're a lot of fun, and I think this is kind of rejuvenated Billy Gunn a little bit. I mean, Daddy Ass is doing some things, and he got himself involved in the decision, which was interesting, but it doesn't come as a surprise. But it was a fun match. And then obviously the big surprise with formerly known as Paige. Paige is now in AEW as Saraya, yes, by her birth name, I guess, if you want to call it that.
We'll talk about Paige in a second, but I want to get to you when you're talking about the crowd. And I think, I'm just sick and tired of that kind of thing with AEW. Yes, I understand, but there's crowd issues here and there, but this is a big venue. They're trying to get a big venue, and I understand they didn't have the same pop and the same, I guess, sold out in 20 seconds like it was last year when they were at Arthur Ashe Stadium. But you still have, it's people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And I guess the WWE fans, they're acting like this is the NFL. And I remember many years ago, I've been to a number of television shows where SmackDown, Raw, even pay-per-views, we're just sitting on the TV side. They're curtaining off upper deck seats. Like, this isn't something that they've never done. This isn't something that they not just have never done, but they've done it pretty recently. I went to Monday Night Raw this past year after WrestleMania. I think the place holds, as a whole, like 16,000. There was probably 7,000 there, with the stage and all of that stuff. I got to cut you off, though, because here's the issue that I have. I get what you're saying, but the issue that I have is with, the dirt sheet writers of the world. They're always, every little thing about WWE, I'm not even going to name them because you know who I'm referring to. Those type of quote unquote journalists in the wrestling business who obviously have some love. They got their, as Eric Bischoff said on a recent episode of his podcast, their lips are permanently glued to the ass of Tony Khan. But every little metric, any little thing that WWE does negatively, they're always throwing shade. So that's why the WWE fans are kicking back at, the folks like that, because the AEW fan base, not all of them, I'm not saying everybody, but you got, especially the writers, the different writers, I'm not even going to give them credit, but they are part of the reason why there's this pushback, because anything WWE does wrong, it could be the smallest thing. We're like, why did Triple H put the tag belts on what was Raquel Rodriguez, and then who's the other girl there? That's how important I guess she is. But my point is, every little thing, like, they shouldn't have booked them as tag champions, like that. To me, I think a part of it is some of those diehard AEW fans and those diehard, I just call them, AEW softball reporters is what I call them, because anytime you get the press conference, nobody's asking real questions. It's all right, Tony, here's the next softball for you. That's why there's the issue. And here's the thing. And I guess, too, here's my thing, and I'll say this, to defend the WWE people who kind of crap on AEW on occasion. Yeah, Tony Khan, I think this past week, he does some things where he just needs to shut up. Whole, New York City, I think, is the crown jewel of places to run an event, things like that. Again, I don't understand why it is. Listen, AEW is very successful. It is a success. Last night they said it was their first $1 million gate in AEW history. I don't understand exactly what goes behind the gate because I don't understand how, last year when they were at Arthur Ashe Stadium, how more people wouldn't make a larger gate. But it is what it is. He says it's a $1 million gate, their first in AEW history.
I would say this, and I take that with a grain of salt. Like you said, like what's really built into the $1 million gate?
Yeah, I don't really understand what builds into things because they've had, I think, hotter tickets.
Is that a gross or is that a net? You know what I mean? There's a difference, as we know, with regular payroll for 9-to-5ers out there, like myself and yourself. You get gross and you get net. And we all know why the word gross is there because it's gross, but what we see what net is after all the taxes.
Yeah,
no,
I understand, but I don't think that he's had $1 million gross before, and this is his first $1 million net. Or I think it's whatever one it is. It's whatever metrics they use. It's the first time they've reached $1 million in that metric. I don't understand how, because I feel like there's been hotter tickets. I feel like
that's the curious thing. How
Grand
does that
Slam
happen?
last year had ticket prices for essentially the same price, if not more, because of the fact that they sold the place out and was a higher demand.
Here's my thing. I can't stand both of the diehards that diss on the other show. Like, it's wrestling, it's entertainment. Just sit back, shut your mouth, enjoy the show.
There's at least 12,000 people at Arthur Ashe Stadium last night watching wrestling on a Wednesday night on cable television with all of the pomp and circumstances and prestige and fireworks and the whole 9 yards of a WWE pay-per-view show, but it is not WWE. It doesn't have any WWE people in it. It is on TBS. It is on Wednesday nights, and it is literally a professional wrestling product in New York City in front of a large crowd. And that's the thing, I guess, you got to think about this. Regardless of if they're drawing huge crowds, they're drawing enough people to make it look like at least half an arena. And so at least 4,000 people every single week are going to these events, and it's on television.
I do get the AEW, like the AEW diehards credit, because when you're watching it live on television, if I didn't see what was going on social media, like where the lack of tickets and all that,
WWE does the same, but putting everyone on the television side.
But the audience was it was really engaging, so it made it sound like it was a full arena. So I'll give the credit where credit is due there. I'm not a big fan of pissing on each other. Anytime you have a chance to throw a jab, like, well, how about this? How about whether it's both companies, both fan bases. How about we just enjoy wrestling? That's what that's one thing in common. We love wrestling. We love to be entertained. We like seeing good matches. We like to see great storylines. That's the commonality. Just because it's two different type of styles, why the hell does it matter? Why don't you just sit back, enjoy the show, and get off the social media and watch the show?
I guess I kind of look at it a little bit similar, and this is no pun intended because I'm going to speak at the Jacksonville Jaguars, Tony Khan's team. But the fact is, when people get mad, kind of like throw jabs at each other, when it comes to attendance or when it comes to things like with the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Green Bay Packers or something like that in the National Football League. And at the end of the day, the Jacksonville Jaguars, sure, they don't get the crowd that the Green Bay Packers do or the prestige or any of that stuff. But at the end of the day, they do enough to be in the NFL. They do enough to be one of the, 30 NFL teams.
32,
they do enough,
32.
They do enough to be profitable. They do enough to be on TV. They do enough to be there. There's a lot of people and there's a lot of WWE or professional wrestling companies out there that don't come nearly enough. And they've been doing it for 50 years and they still don't do enough to be near WWE. Impact Wrestling is as the next one, and there's, I think, still pretty far away.
Very far
There's
away.
lots of indie wrestling out there that get good crowds, but they don't do enough to be on TV every single week. They don't do enough to travel outside of their areas. They don't do what AEW does. AEW does enough to be in the conversation of a professional wrestling program that is on cable television every single week and making money.
Here's the thing, though. They're not legitimate competition. Let's get that. Let's get that.
I didn't say so much competition as much. They're enough for WWE to acknowledge them.
Yeah,
that they are another professional wrestling company that is out there, that is traveling across. They're enough that they can go to England and people will already have T-shirts and know what to do. Well, obviously, the Buffalo, New York independent wrestling companies go to England. They can't do.
I think the best thing, the thing that we need to see more of is why not have everybody be good? You know what I mean? Like that's it's as they say, the rising tides. They lift all ships. So why not? Bump each other up.
And you get to see things that you didn't think you were going to see, and that's what leading me to this is right when you thought that Chris Jericho couldn't accomplish anything more in his career, has no more notches to add to his belt. He is the Ring of Honor. And believe me, I've been to Ring of Honor shows a couple years ago. And if you asked me 5 years ago,
you would have laughed.
If Chris Jericho was going to be holding the belt anytime soon, I was like, maybe Dalton Castle, but Chris Jericho, just where that company was at the time. And I mean, I think it's a little bit different now, obviously, under the AEW umbrella. It's essentially just an AEW brand. But Ring of Honor champion, Chris Jericho. Do you like the decision? Some hate it, some like it. Most hate it.
I don't mind it. I really don't. It doesn't bother me. I think it's cool to see Chris Jericho doing something that nobody expected him to do. Yes, is it kind of not cool to take it off Claudio? Sure. But I do like the fact that Chris Jericho gets it. The only thing my concern is, what's he really going to do with this championship? Is he going to be one of those, as I like to call them, paper champions, where they just hold it and they wrestle like the minimum amount of times they have to contractually, so to speak, or are they going to be a fighting champion? I think with Chris Jericho's age and his schedule, I feel like he's going to be more towards the paper champ style. That's just me, because as we know, and we're based out of Syracuse, he's coming to these neck of the woods, not for wrestling. He's coming for a rock show.
That's like next Saturday night.
Yeah, it's coming up pretty quick.
You think he's going to bring his belt with him?
It would be cool. I don't know if he would, but I think it would be cool. I don't think he does.
I will say, which is crazy, because the venue that he is running would actually probably be too small for even the traditional Ring of Honor. So it is kind of unique in that sense, but it is unique that he is a Ring of Honor champion. I think I'm not going to go the route of like the Brock Lesnar of, hey, puts more eyeballs on the Ring of Honor champion. I don't think they have that issue, because most Ring of Honor stuff right now is being competed for on AEW TV.
Yeah, there's enough going there.
Yeah, it's not like we're really starting the television show and we're basing it around Chris Jericho at the time. But yeah, no, I think it's neat per se. I mean, Cesaro, to be honest with you, might be a little too much of a mainstay to be a Ring of Honor champion, to be honest. So, I don't really know. I guess my thing is, when Ring of Honor does start as a full-time television show, what its intentions are. Is it trying to be developmental for AEW? Because Chris Jericho obviously doesn't give off that vibe.
No, and that's kind of my thought of it. I mean, the way, kind of how I've been thinking about it is, obviously when things get off the ground with Ring of Honor, I could see it being one of those things where it's the NXT version of AEW. That's where developmental. And here's the best thing, to give it a little juice to start it off. Why not have somebody beat Chris Jericho on the first night, or even like the first pay-per-view?
If he keeps it that long, we have to see how long.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, we don't know how long. I'm just assuming if Chris Jericho is a champion, I think it's not a bad move to ride that ship a little bit to, again, give it a little kick to when it starts.
It might be interesting to have Chris Jericho being the champion on like their debut episode of Ring of Honor TV, because again, it'll put more eyeballs on it.
Yeah, people are gonna be like, let's check it out.
Than if it's just Dalton Castle and Jay Lethals and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And I imagine it's probably only gonna be like an hour show as well when it first starts. But moving on to Saraya, now we were talking about her, obviously WWE's Paige. What schedule do you think she's gonna have, and like what do you expect for Saraya when it comes to in-ring competition in AEW here?
It's not full time. It's not full time in my book.
From a managerial kind of like more like what a Brandy Rhodes was.
I'm curious. I want to know if she's going to wrestle. That's and here's the thing. By all intentions, it seemed like when she was there, she made her intentions known that she's going to wrestle. So I would say if it's wrestling, the side of it, I would say it's part time. I think she'll part-time wrestle. I think she'll kind of do, I don't know, maybe like the Christian style a little bit. Like you'll have a few matches
not
here
like
and
the
there.
Sonya Deville, what we recently saw, kind of where she's more like a figure in the back.
Yeah, I mean that's possible, but I could see it kind of under that Christian model, Christian Cage model, where he wrestles from time to time. He's in storylines. There's more like, because she's a good mouthpiece, so she can cut a promo and she can build storylines up where she's not actually getting in physical contact as often. And maybe she wrestles a handful of times a year. Maybe that's the new contract based on her unfortunate injury past.
Yeah, that's why I figure it's kind of interesting the way that they brought her in, because they obviously brought her in from like a competitor standpoint. She didn't come in with somebody as their manager.
And here's the other thing too: WWE was interested. They were kicking the tires on it, and AEW got the deal done. So that's
a lot of people have been
interesting.
joking around about how AEW and Tony Khan have been big fans of WWE's backstage show from a couple years ago, because it seems like everybody who was on that show is now in AEW, from Punk to Christian to, I guess, Adam Cole. They're still missing him. Well, no, wait.
No, Adam Cole's in.
Yeah, so they're missing nobody. I don't know why I thought.
Maybe
I'm thinking like a Roderick strong side.
Like
Sorry,
Renee Young. Didn't she do a little backstage, or was that?
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, and obviously she's with Moxley, so she's got to tie.
She's got to tie in, so she's
with Moxley now, who is the champion, and I kind of put this out on Twitter because I think it's funny. Is that I can't remember a AEW championship match in the recent times in which we weren't crowning a new champion like from the start, like meaning we already knew it was going to say "and new AEW champion" because we were crowning a new champion, whether it's this one, whether it's the one that CM Punk just won between him and Moxley, obviously for the interim championship. And I feel like the one that Punk won before that. So when Moxley went out, was it Moxley or Hangman Page? The interim championship. No, it was Punk.
Moxley.
Then it was Moxley.
Yeah.
Then it was Punk.
Yeah.
Now it's Moxley.
Yeah. Now it's Moxley again.
Yeah. It was.
Which I don't mind. I don't mind.
Well, it went Punk winning the title.
Yeah.
Moxley winning the title that Punk got hurt and couldn't defend.
The interim. Yep. Interim-ish.
Yes. And then Moxley winning the interim unification match, then Punk winning a week later from where it was just one championship at that stake, and now Moxley winning. So it's like Moxley Punk back and forth, and it's always and new champion and for like 5 matches in a row. Yeah, and 4 of those matches, the champion, there wasn't even a champion essentially heading in.
On the bright side too, maybe it's not on the bright side. Some people may not agree with this, but on the bright side, we might never see another AEW champion with the name CM Punk. There's reported talks of a buyout in his contract. So,
well, I just think like with everything that's going on lately, I think
CM Punk needs to.
And he's not young. That's the issue. It's one thing if he's young and he's let's use an NFL reference. It's Ricky Williams. He's got to go away for a while. Or a Mike Vick or something like that, where there's a big thing going on that has to go away.
But they're young enough and he can come back later.
Yeah. So
I think he's.
He can't plexico burst this.
He's done.
Yeah, because outside of the issue that he was having with the backstage, he's also getting hurt a lot.
And here's the other thing too. There's a lot of reports circulating that ever since this whole thing happened, and they're doing like once a week they're doing a talent meeting. Like since this whole thing happened, and they really had to clamp things down. Everything's good. Everybody seems happy. I mean, there's certain talent that didn't want to disparage any certain talent. But I mean, it could be a combination of CM Punk and the Elite because maybe not everybody likes the way they book themselves. So, I mean, it could be not. It's not always. I don't want to say it's only Punk, but I could see it being Punk, a combo of Punk and the Elite. So, and right now, I mean, they from all the reports out there that the morale's back in the right direction. So that's good.
AEW on the road to Full Gear. We got a little bit away for that in November, but essentially a pay-per-view in AEW Grand Slam this past week.